Hello guys, I just made up some gypsy cold care tea because if you're watching this video when it comes out, you already know what's going on. And that kind of brings me into my topic for today actually. I really want to talk about stress and the way that it is affecting our lives, because a few weeks ago on my Instagram, which first of all, if you're new here, my name is Mallory, Mal's My Kitchen, future dietitian, and I love talking about all things wellness, ED recovery, bloating, basically just giving you the real deal information about all of those things that people don't necessarily want to talk about. And on my Instagram, someone asked me about how do I deal with stress around eating, around exercise, and even just in life, and the way that that affects bloating, our body image, and just how we feel overall, which I thought is literally such a good question. And I've debated making this video today because I just wasn't in the mood to put on makeup and put on some quote-unquote YouTube personality, which I don't do, but I think as creators we feel pressure to always be upbeat and look perfect and all of those things. But I just want this to be a chat between you and I about the real big struggles of stress and how that does affect our lives, and the ways that I do manage this as best as I can when these things come up. Well, we have a visitor joining us, so he postponed, if I could speak, the video a little bit. But anyways, I do just want to have this casual chat with you guys, and I'd love to hear your feedback as well when I share. This is just something that I think could be good for all of us to hear at this time, especially with everything going on, like I said. And so I hope that it helps one of you, and if it does, please let me know in the comments. All right, if you're following me on Instagram, you'll know that he gets himself tucked in like this. Like literally, he tucks himself in. But anyways, enough with the cat. So to begin, I want to talk about the sources of stress right now and how stress basically feels, I don't want to say inevitable, but very easy to get. Because if you're watching this when it's happening, this is when everything is going on with the coronavirus, but also we have so many stresses outside of that going on in life as well. So on Instagram, we are constantly seeing ways to compare ourselves, ways to eat, ways that our body should look, how we should work out. And all of these things lead to so much stress. Not to mention the fact that there's so many different solutions, I would say, out there telling us what we need to be doing in order to fix all of these problems we have. Even when some of the things they're telling us to fix, we didn't even know were problems in the first place. Like, does anybody else have that happen? Because that's literally me all of the time. So I want to talk about what this stress does to our body, and then what are the ways that we can deal with this, and how does that usually manifest into our life. So the thing about stress is that when we get stressed out, our body goes into fight or flight mode. And I've explained this a little bit in another video that I posted, I'll link up here, when I was talking about bloating. But fight or flight mode is exactly what it sounds like. It is like your body is preparing and or thinking that it is running from a bear, that it has to either fight or run away, and it cannot distinguish that from when you are actually running from a bear or when there's just stressful things going on in your life. And I know that's crazy to think about, but it's so true. And when we constantly live in that cycle, it becomes so unhealthy for us because our hormones become unbalanced, our adrenals can become extremely fatigued. We ourselves just become burned out because we're naturally not supposed to be living in that. So we talked about some of the things that can cause us stress, but it's so different for everybody. And I know that this was one of the biggest things that came up for me in my journey with ED recovery, bloating, and in my anxiety journey. If you're new here, you may not know that those were all three things that have really, I don't want to say characterized, but been very prevalent in my life and things that I had to work through. And I'll link some videos below where I talk about a little bit of my journey with those things if you're interested in them. But the things that happen is when we have constant stress, it exacerbates all these problems. So what do you do when you feel stressed? How do we fix this? And there's not always a clear-cut answer. So what I'm going to give you today is not all the tips that are going to fix your bloating or your ED recovery fears or your stress around the coronavirus. They're just some discussion points of things that may be helpful that you may want to use that did help me. So let's first tackle a little bit about stress in everyday life. For example, with the coronavirus, I did a post on this today that I'll put right up here, and it doesn't necessarily talk about this specifically, but it just talks about stress in everyday life. If you don't know, I actually just recently moved. This is my new apartment in Austin, Texas, which is really, really exciting. And I'm starting a new job. I'm starting a new phase of my internship. There's just a lot of things going on. And although I'm so excited about it, I can't lie to you, I also feel a lot of stress with that. And it's exciting and scary all at the same time. So when I'm trying to deal with this, I always fall back to simplicity. And I know that that may seem weird, but what does that mean? I think about the things that always make me feel good. So whether that be the same meal that I eat every day, if I know it works for my body, the same workouts for the movements that I know actually make me feel good, aren't just for that physique or aren't just for the external validation of others, and also implementing the things into my life that I know work for me. Keeping up my supplements that help me with my anxiety, keeping up the meditation, the reading, my daily gratitude journaling. Those are all things that I've found in my life that have really worked. And I think that that's something that helps me not only just with regular stress, but also something that carries into everyday life as well, and these other more specific issues that I'm going to go into a little bit more, because I know many of you in this community have also struggled with eating disorders or have also struggled with bloating. So taking those general things that work that help you with your everyday stress, people will be so surprised about how much those can actually help to carry over into helping you with your bloating and also with your ED recovery. Okay, but now let's dive a little bit more into ED recovery and bloating and how stress affects all of that. And even if you haven't dealt with an eating disorder, how does stress affect our eating and exercise in our day-to-day life? Because the crazy thing about my experience with disordered eating and exercise disordered is that it was actually almost all due to stress. The stress was around losing control, whether that be in my eating or in my exercise or how my body looked. And all of my actions were actually being generated from how much stress I actually had going through that. And I find this still happens in my day-to-day life. There will be times where I'm just feeling stressed in general, and that leads me to want to restrict my food more or to want to go to the gym more. And it can be different for different people. Maybe it makes you want to restrict your food less or go to the gym less. But either way, it shows you how much our stress is actually affecting our body and affecting ourselves and how we feel. Because I think stress is showing us that we feel the need to have more control. It's showing us an imbalance. And a lot of the times as humans, we don't always equip ourselves with the tools. I know for a long time, I did not equip myself with the tools to deal with stress. And even now, I still struggle. It's not like I still have it all in the bag now that I know what to do. So in terms of bloating, I saw the exact same thing. When I was dealing with bloating, a lot of it definitely was coming from parts of my ED recovery that I was working through. I think a lot of us see that. I have an entire video talking about ED recovery and bloating because it's not very talked about. But as it started to move forward, and even in my day-to-day life now, I see that my stress is the main culprit of my bloating. When you are in that fight or flight mode, your body is shunting blood to the other fight muscles in your body and the other fight limbs. So it's not focused on the food you have in your stomach. So what are the things that I do in day-to-day life to help me with the stress around eating, around bloating, around exercise? And we already talked a little bit about what I do in general, and a lot of those do carry over. Meditation, journaling, those are things that helped me so much. I know that they're very common nowadays. I know a lot of people talk about them, but it is just such a powerful tool that you can use in your life to help. And for some people that may not work. Another thing I love to do is going on walks. I love doing yoga. I just love doing the things that make me feel good, and that is different for everybody. In terms of having less stress around my eating, I had to start to drop my food rules. There's so much out there nowadays about what you can and cannot eat. If we listen to the rules from everybody, we would actually not be able to eat anything. We would be having air for dinner and breakfast and lunch. So I had to just drop the food rules and listen to my body and what works for me. It's great if someone else can do an entirely keto diet and that is working for them. But for my body, I have tried doing even just lower carbohydrate diets at one point, and it did not work. I had no energy, I felt awful, and that shows me that that's not the right fit for me. And I eat a lot more grains than a lot of people say that you should. But that's what gives me energy and that's what keeps me full. And that is how I reduce my stress around my food. Not to mention when I'm eating a meal, I try to really focus on that meal. I try to slow down my eating, even though that's hard. And I try to take some deep breaths before that meal if I am feeling really stressed that day. And I find that these things help me so much. And those also help me with my bloating as well, which they really go hand in hand. There are also a few products that I love to use. I'm a huge fan of CBD. I use a brand called Bloom Farms. I find that that really helps me to reduce my stress levels. I usually take some right before bed to help me sleep, but I also take it intermittently if I just need a little extra support. I also take something called Adrenal Health. I don't want to recommend this to everybody because it's a very unique supplement, but I worked with a naturopath to find out that that worked really well for my body. Then I also take 5-HTP. These are all things that help me to manage my mood and my stress, and in turn they've helped me a lot of calming down that anxiety that can lead into exacerbations of stress around food, disordered eating, and disordered exercise. In terms of exercise, as I said, I actually look at exercise so much more as medicine now, but in the past, it was a very negative part of my life. So what I had to do with that is to slowly start to wean off. And I know it sounds really hard, but I just needed to slowly chip away. I'm not someone that can go from 100% to 0% because that leads to more stress. But it started with me implementing more low intensity exercises like walking, like yoga, like even swimming. Then it started with me reducing from the extreme amount of time I was in the gym to a little bit less and to a little bit less. And also reminding myself that one week when I didn't work out, my body looked the exact same. Sometimes it looked better. And exactly the thing of weight is also not indicative of where you're at. I hear so many girls still that stress and cause stress in their life constantly by continuing to weigh themselves. And it's so hard because I know that the weight and the scale is so alluring, but I swear you will have so much less stress in your day-to-day life if it's something that you can manage to take out. And I promise you, it has been a huge, huge help for me. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it wasn't too all over the place. Sometimes I just like to throw in these little chats with you guys because I feel like you're my friend, so sometimes I just want to sit down and have a conversation with you about what's going through my head, about a little bit of reflection of where I'm at. And I think it came at a really good time with everything that's going on right now in our life. And I'm sure a lot of us are feeling a little bit more intensity in some of the areas we used to struggle with that we talked about in this video. But if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It will really support my channel, and I would love to see you back here subscribed to this channel. And if you have any video ideas you want me to make, anything you want to see, feel free to drop it down below. I love making videos that you guys want to see. All right guys, I will see you back here soon. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye. What a wonderful